When I was 10, I had a very active prayer life. I used to pray every night before I went to sleep. And every night I recited a very specific litany of prayers. It began with, "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take," which is actually a terrifying prayer. Think about it. You're asking a child to invoke the possibility of death and your soul not being taken every single night before trying to go to sleep. After that one, I said the one that goes Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, "Bless the bed I lie upon." My family is Jewish. So I distinctly remember wondering, who the heck are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Because even though my family was not religious, I certainly had not read the Christian scriptures by age 10. I ended my prayer litany by asking God to bless a very long list of family and friends, always in the same exact order, so I didn't forget anybody. And if I did forget someone, I would start over just to make sure. Prayer wasn't a part of my family's culture, nor was attending synagogue or anything else explicitly religious. So I could only assume I learned these prayers when I went to church with various Protestant next-door neighbors and friends, which I started doing when I was about 7 years old. Can you imagine a 7-year-old coming next door to you and asking to be taken to church? That's what I did. I had a deep yearning for faith as a child, and I must have known enough to invite myself to places where I thought I might find it. I remember paying close attention at my friend's American Baptist Sunday school and hearing stories about Jesus, who was God's son and who especially loved the little children. And along with the rest of the Sunday school class, I memorized the Lord's Prayer. We earned a Hershey's chocolate bar and a quarter for reciting it correctly. But for me, those were just bonuses. It was the prayer that I wanted. I'm not quite sure where my unquestioning belief in the God I prayed to as a child came from, or where my intuition that prayer was essential to my well-being came from, but I consider those gifts. My prayers have changed a lot in form and content over the years. The subject to whom my prayers are addressed has certainly changed. Sometimes I have prayed to the mother of us all. Sometimes I have prayed to the earth itself. Sometimes I have prayed to a God I am not at all sure I believe in, or to the God I am still quite sure does not, cannot reach out and fix things according to my specific hopes and needs or anyone's, no matter how urgent and heartbreakingly real those hopes and needs are. I know that prayer is complicated for a lot of us. And maybe for Unitarian Universalists, it has special complications, as many of us don't believe in a God or higher power to whom we would address prayers. I think it was Garrison Keillor who made the joke that Unitarian Universalists address our prayers to whom it may concern. And many of us came to this faith from other traditions, and we have moved a long distance from the beliefs about God we once had. Many of us are no longer comfortable with a personal God, with a God who has a name or a title. with a God who has ears with which to hear our prayers, much less answer some of them and not others. But still I pray. It is my spiritual practice. It is my impulse. It is my need. And as your minister, I believe it is my responsibility to pray for you. Why do I pray? Well, in the words of my Jewish grandmother, it couldn't hurt. But really, I pray because it is what I can do. It is so very rare that I can change any of the circumstances that are causing you sorrow or pain. But I can always hold you in love and hope, and I can always encourage and invite you to do that for one another. I don't pray because I believe praying makes God pay closer attention. That is not the nature of the God I believe in. But I do think that prayer matters, that it helps us in some ineffable way. There are recent scientific studies that point in this direction, telling us that people who are prayed for before and during and after surgery need fewer pain relievers and recover faster, even if they don't know they're being prayed for, which is wild to me. But I was praying before those studies were published, and I would continue praying whether or not I had read them, even if I don't have the words to tell you exactly why. My prayers used to have a lot of words in them, and I find the words are getting fewer as the years go by. Mostly the words that I pray now are the names of the people I am praying for, which I do every morning. I keep an ever-changing list of those of you who are hurting or in need of healing. And I say your names and I hold your faces in my mind and heart, and I pray for you to be well. I know Lee does the very same every night. So if you would like to be included in our morning and evening prayers, you'll see there are prayer cards in your pew. And we even have an email address, prayers@uugroton.org. I've started to believe that prayer is not very much about talking, that listening is the way into prayer. Maybe listening is the prayer. Listening to the quiet, listening to the morning, listening to our own hearts beating, listening to breathing, listening to the world, listening for what we so easily miss in all of the noise of our lives. The poet Mary Oliver was one of the best listeners of our time. And out of her listening came wonderful questions, including questions about what prayers might be and who prays them. In the poem we started with this morning, which is called I Happened to Be Standing, she writes, I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep in the sun? Does the opossum pray as it crosses the road, the sunflowers, the old black oak growing older every year? Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. It was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why. And yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. But I thought of the wren singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened. Today we begin a month of services about deep listening. Listening to the God of our understanding, listening to one another, listening for truth, even when it is not comfortable, listening to our own lives and to what they might be telling us, sometimes urgently. But in order to listen, we have to get quieter, and that's hard. My mind is not a quiet place so much of the time. I assure you, I think 1,000 thoughts every morning in between those prayers, in between those breaths, in between those moments when I can rest in the fullness and love that I call God. I am distracted by the strange beeping coming from the basement, by the fact that my coffee has gone cold, by the list, always the list, of the many things I could be doing instead of sitting in the living room by the window praying the mostly wordless prayers of my own heart. And yet I return morning after morning to that stillness in which my soul can listen. What if listening is the way into the mystery, the way into thanks? What if listening will tell us the whispers of truths we need to know? Our houses want to be pink, and who knows what else we might hear if we move into that silence beyond fear. What if listening is the doorway? What if we listen?